Let's Explainer. I'm Suraj K. Sadev, and today we're going to embark on a deep, truly reflective journey into the evolution of leadership. We're breaking down what it actually takes to move past simply being good at your job, to becoming a progressive leader who leaves a lasting, positive impact on everyone around them. So, let's dive right into this. We so often think of career progression as this straight, predictable line of just acquiring more skills and executing tasks faster and faster. But as we'll see today, stepping into genuine, connected leadership requires a profound, fundamental shift in how we approach our work, our teams, and most importantly, ourselves. It's a progressive move completely away from simple task execution and into the realm of shaping people and systems.
Consider this incredibly vulnerable thought, translated from a beautiful Urdu reflection. There are holes in my character, but at least my character exists. I really want you to think about that for a moment. Early on in our careers, we're taught to project absolute perfection. We want to be the flawless executor who never makes a mistake. But authentic leadership isn't about perfection at all. It's about owning our flaws, acknowledging those holes, and realizing that true character is built on self-awareness. When we admit we aren't perfect, we suddenly open the door to actually growing, and more importantly, to connecting with the people we lead. It proves you have a real, solid foundation to build upon.
So let's examine what we call the competence trap, or early career capability. When we're just starting out, there is a relentless hustle required, right? We prove our worth through raw capability, generally moving through three distinct phases. First, we build our skills. We learn the absolute basics and the tools of the trade. Second, execution. We put those skills to work, getting things done efficiently and flawlessly. And third, problem solving. When fires break out, we're the ones who run in and put them out, and rightly so. Early growth is purely driven by personal capability. Your entire value is directly tied to your individual output. But if you stay in this mindset too long, those very steps that brought you all that early success, they actually become a cage.
Which brings us to the next critical phase, embracing the flaws and moving beyond this idea of being perfect. This right here is the major inflection point in every successful professional's career. It's the stark realization that what got us to this current level of success will absolutely fail us if we don't adapt. You hit a ceiling. You simply cannot work any harder, code any faster, or sell any more by yourself. There are only so many hours in the day. Growth is no longer decided only by what you can do. Let that sink in. Hitting a leadership ceiling means recognizing that our personal perfection and our individual execution are no longer enough to scale our impact. You can't just be the smartest person in the room anymore. You literally have to be the person who makes everyone else in the room smarter.
And that leads us to the leadership shift, the transition from raw competence to a completely new approach.
This shift requires fundamentally changing our strategic approach to others. It is no longer about proving you can do the job, it's about proving you can build an environment where others can do the job brilliantly. Notice the contrast between direction and mentorship. Direction is the old habit. It's simply telling people what to do, go here, do this, report back to me. It's entirely task-oriented. Mentorship, however, is the nuanced art of guiding their growth. It's asking the right questions, providing context, and allowing them to discover the solution for themselves. Simply put, direction creates followers, but mentorship creates new leaders.
This evolution completely changes how we manage, moving us from micromanagement to planned management. We've all experienced micromanagement. It's suffocating. It happens when a leader just doesn't trust the system, so they manage every single minute task. Planned management is a whole different ballgame. It means you architect a clear, logical system. You set the parameters, the overarching goals, and provide the resources, and then you step back and let your team operate within that architecture. You manage the plan, not the every move of the person.
Next, let's look at role-bound responsibility versus true ownership. Role-bound responsibility is saying, well, I did my part, the rest isn't my problem. It's not in my job title. It's a very narrow way to work. True ownership is completely different. It's taking holistic, end-to-end responsibility for the final outcomes, regardless of what your specific title says. When a leader steps into true ownership, they care about the success of the entire project, the whole team, and the organization. They never pass the buck.
Then consider occasional intensity versus consistent effort. In our early careers, we often rely on short, exhausting bursts of intense execution. Pulling all-nighters, pushing through a massive, stressful crisis. But as a leader, you absolutely cannot run a team on adrenaline. Occasional intensity has to be replaced by steady perspective and consistent effort over time. You have to pace the organization. Consistency builds deep trust. Erratic intensity just breeds burnout.
So to summarize this major shift, you are now shaping systems, people, and outcomes. At the highest levels of professional life, you are no longer an operator just pulling the levers on a machine. You are the architect designing the machine itself. Your primary tools are no longer spreadsheets or software applications. Your primary tools are culture, strategy, and human potential.
But we have to be honest about the internal friction this causes. Let's explore breaking to connect, which is the true emotional journey of the leader.
Giving up the things that made you successful, your hands-on execution, your direct control, feels incredibly risky. It requires abandoning old, comfortable habits, and frankly, it can feel like you're losing your professional identity. There's a profound sentiment translated from a moving Hindi audio reflection that perfectly captures this friction. It breaks you down only to build you up again, joining you back together to connect even more deeply. Real leadership will break your old self. The solo executor in you has to be dismantled. But it's not to destroy you, it is to rebuild you into something much more expansive. You're reassembled so you can connect deeply with your team, understanding their struggles, guiding their minds, and fostering real connective growth.
And I promise you, this isn't just poetry. It translates directly into hard corporate realities. Leaders who embrace this break-in and reconnecting early in their industrial journeys achieve specific, tangible advantages. They grow much more steadily because they aren't burning out. They face far less internal friction because they aren't fighting their own teams for control. They create incredibly strong autonomous teams, and ultimately, they deliver sustainable impact that lasts long after they've moved on to the next big challenge.
Which brings us to the ultimate goal, passing clarity forward and building your true legacy.
Once you've navigated this transformative shift, what comes next? You move into building your true legacy in the professional world. Let's dispel a very common myth right now, the idea of the dominant, loud boss. We so often think leadership presence means taking up all the air in the room, being louder than everyone else. But true leadership presence doesn't require raising your voice at all. It requires increasing your clarity. A great leader cuts through the noise. They don't yell, they illuminate. They make the complex simple and the ambiguous crystal clear.
This exact same principle applies to how we handle the burden of leadership, heavier versus more effective. As you rise in an organization, the weight of responsibility naturally increases. But carrying the weight of a team shouldn't make the burden heavier for you to just drag along. If you're truly leading, your systems, your mentorship, and your clarity should instead make the entire operation more streamlined and effective. You aren't carrying the team on your back, you're paving a smooth road for them to run on.
So how exactly do we pass this clarity forward? We do it by actively helping the next generation of leaders. We step in to help them avoid the unnecessary struggles we faced when we were trapped in that early competence mindset. We help them focus on the right levers early on, systems and people, rather than just checking off tasks. And most importantly, we guide them to grow with both impact and balance, ensuring they don't lose themselves in the daily grind.
As we bring this explainer to a close, I want to step back and ask you to reflect directly on your own journey right now. Honestly ask yourself, at your current stage, are you still just building your own capability? Or are you truly evolving your approach? Are you still relying purely on what you can personally execute? Or are you actively beginning to architect the systems around you?
And finally, for the people who look to you for leadership, are you just guiding their execution, telling them what to do next, or are you actively shaping their thinking, mentoring them to become the next generation of leaders? I want you to leave this session with those questions really echoing in your mind. Because true leadership is a continuous evolution, it's an ongoing commitment to connecting deeply and building others up. Thank you so much for joining me for this deep dive. I am Suraj K. Sadev, and I look forward to exploring more with you next time. Keep evolving, keep connecting, and always lead with clarity.